Welcome to another lecture, guys. In this lecture we are going to learn how we can create different state machines and change the state of animation from one state to another and using script. We are going to write some script that will help us change our animation from one state to another. We are going to start from where we have left off in the last lecture. Right now we have one animation for our cube that rotates it and scales it, but we are going to add another one so we have more animations to run with it. Let's create a new clip and let's call it cube 2 animation. Now let's go to our scene and let's add some functionality to our animation. Let's add position and rotation. Let's add rotation now. Now let's bring the last frame to 30 and let's change the values so we have some animation effect to our cube. At 30 we want our position to be a bit of the right. Let's add another keyframe at 60 and want our cube position to the left. Same way, let's add another keyframe at 130 and here we want our animation to take our cube back to its original position. Let's now set the rotation values. At 30 we want our Y to be rotated at, let's say, 360. At 1, or let's say at 130 we want it to 360 again, and at 60 it will be set to 0, so it will give us a nice effect. Let's change it to -180 and now it should give us a nice effect. Let's play it and fair enough. Let's go to our animator and you will see that we have another state. Now we are going to add another transition to our states from any state. First of all, let's create an empty state and make transition from entry point to that state, and we are going to make this transition or make this state to be the default state. And now let's move it down. Let's make transition from any state to both these states. And now we are going to add two triggers to trigger these states. To do that, let's go to our parameters and let's add two triggers. The first one should be called trigger 1 and the second one should be called trigger 2. Now we can add these conditions inside our inspector. Let's add the condition from our list to be trigger 2 for the cube 2 animation and trigger 1 for the cube 1 animation. Now this state will only change when our trigger gets true. Let's hit play and go to the scene view so we see that our entry C state is being played again and again. Now if we hit trigger 1 to true, it will change our state to cube animation 1, and if we hit trigger 2, it will take our animation to the cube 2 animation state automatically. Next thing we are going to do is add a script to our cube. Let's call it animation manager. Let's double click it to open it in Visual Studio. First of all, we are going to need the reference of our animator to talk to it and set our triggers programmatically. Animator, and inside our update we are going to utilize our knowledge from the input manager. We are going to have an if.input.key down, and inside we are going to give keycode dot space, and inside the if statement we are going to call our animator and set it trigger, and inside we have to give the name of our trigger. Let it be trigger 1 for example. Let's add semicolon there, hit save and go back to Unity, and let's see if our trigger names are correct. It don't have a space in it. Let's just add a space inside our trigger name, add a space there as well, hit enter. Now whenever we hit space inside our game, it will automatically change the state to the trigger 1. Let's hit enter. We have some error inside our script. Let's go back to our script and see what we have missing. We have to have the reference of our animator controller. To do that, we type get component and give the type of our component to be animator. Let's hit save and go back. We still have some error. Let's go back to the script and see what's wrong. Here we have to give the type of the animator. Instead we have given the name of our object. Let's hit play. Now you will see as soon as I have hit the space, it's have changed the animation to this animation. Let's do a recap by going into our script. First of all, we got the reference of our animator controller, and inside the if we have set our trigger. We can similarly set all these parameters by using set bool function to set the boolean variable to true or false, and we can also use the set int function to set the integer to some value. Similarly, we can use the same syntax and set the float parameter using some name and giving the value.